Let's get back to the story we led with. And that was such an interesting conversation we had with Mona Gray, who had worked at the Waiparaira Trust, really about, I guess he painted a picture of a cult of personality. And his Substack actually makes comparisons with Pablo Escobar. I don't know, it sounds more like The Godfather with, make him an offer he can't refuse, from John Tamihere. I have to note that John Tamihere is, kind of denying any wrongdoing in anything. He says, show me your evidence, and a fair bit of bluster. But I was surprised to see over the weekend one of, I think, the country's more measured and certainly encyclopedic in the way he covers the commentary of everyone. Political commentators and observers, Bryce Edwards, come out and say quite definitively, it's time we had a bloody good look at this. And he joins us by video link now. Bryce, you weren't messing around. You said, let's be at this. Let's find out what is going on. What has prompted you to take such a definitive stand on this issue?
Oh, Morena, Sean. This has been dragging on for years and years, questions about John Tamihere's financial interests in a number of different organisations, and including Te Pāti Māori, and of course the most recent investigation by journalist Andrea Vance, showing these blatant breakings of rules in South Auckland.
Now, we have to say, Bryce, those things have been denied by John Tamihere.
Well, it's kind of interesting about what he's denying. He's obviously given some sort of response to Andrea Vance about her column, but he's not being very specific about what he's denying. He says he's carried out his own investigation into himself, essentially, and he's denying any wrongdoing, but he's not being very specific.
Well, the Electoral Commission says it's not going to look at it, Bryce. Police say they've received a complaint.
I'm not sure exactly if you're talking about the earlier allegations back from February or the latest ones to come out this weekend.
It's hard to keep up, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's hard to keep up with the allegations.
It is hard to keep up. And the Electoral Commission work in mysterious ways, as all government agencies do. And I think there's a lot of pressure on government agencies from John Tamihere. No government agency wants to be branded as racist, white supremacist, and they don't want to be caught up in legal action because, of course, John Tamihere is very litigious. He has some of the best lawyers, apparently.
Does he? He tells us he does. It sounds like a bully play, that, to me.
Oh, look, absolutely. He is a bully. And, it's up to each of us to judge whether he's bullying on the side of angels or the side of himself, really, because he's there saying that he's standing up for, a large constituency of essentially urban Māori in South Auckland, and that's what the trust here is involved in, and they do lots of great work, and we're talking about a lot of people there that are at the bottom of the heap, and his agency, serves those people, so he has a lot of mana.
And he's a registered charity, despite the fact he's used that charity to largely fund and run a rather radical political organisation. I'd also note information out this weekend, Bryce, that the woman charged at the Charities Commission with reviewing the status of an outfit like the Waiparaira Trust turns out to be a Labour Party affiliate and a candidate for Labour in Port Waikato at the last election. And I'm sorry, so much of this stinks and smells of some sort of soft corruption.
Yeah, I think you're right to be sceptical, suspicious about the regulatory agencies, especially when some of those key figures are partisan figures. I mean, I would suspect that some in Labour have more grudges with Tamihere and what's going on than maybe you and I. So I'm not sure quite how it plays out about those connections. In some ways, Labour is a huge competitor to Tamihere and to Pāti Māori. But yes, it does kind of smell, doesn't it? And there needs to be a lot of transparency about how Charity Services, the government agency, has dealt with this. From what I've seen, they have actually been quite, they have tried really hard with the Waiparawa Trust, but they've been bullied as well, essentially.
Yeah.
And,
I saw in Auckland pre the election, Waiparawa Trust buses or billboards on the sides of buses and things all over Auckland with pictures of Debbie Ngārewa-Paka and Raweri Waititi and someone else, and they would just be proud to be Māori billboards, clearly political billboards, but you could get away with saying they weren't. It was part of the Waiparawa Trust promoting pride in being Māori. Very interesting, very much a line call, and I'm sure not claimed as election expenses.
Well, that's really interesting, and yes, the rules around election expenses do have loopholes in them, and obviously John Tamihere is very good at loopholes and very good at
and of course during the election, one of their successful young candidates lied to the media and police about a home invasion, a story that was completely fictitious and made up.
Well, we're getting into a whole different territory here, and that was just quite an unusual part of the election campaign, where you had a lot of headlines about something that was quite serious, about essentially a home invasion, about political violence, if you like, or potential violence, and sort of things that you could not accept.
And there was a man in his 70s from the bowling club who thought she'd given a good speech.
Yeah, well, that was one of the not very well reported parts of that story, and we never really got to the bottom of whether his version of it was true or her version, but it just quietly faded away. And I think the media did do us a disservice on that by, trumpeting these.
Not just that, Bryce. Not just that. Look, you're calling. What sort of inquiry do you think there needs to be?
Oh, look, I'm not very good on the ins and outs. I'm not a public law specialist. But it strikes me.
You're just sitting there stomping your foot, saying someone should do something here.
And a bit like that, yes. But I know that the Auditor General's office have done some brilliant investigations in recent years, and I have a lot of faith in the Auditor General to actually stand up to some pretty powerful forces and say what that office truly thinks. The SFO, I think, could be a very appropriate body, because we're talking about some large financial figures here, and that is taxpayer funding.
And it's just, I don't know if you heard Mona Gray live with me this morning.
He's great.
And he gave me this web, and his article said it's like Pablo Escobar, which is quite extreme and possibly defamatory, but
Look, certainly John Tamihere is a rule to himself, and he's a charismatic figure, and he's got a lot of strong connections. He's done things very smartly, and he's built up a fiefdom in all these different organisations, and he's got people that are reliant on his largesse, if you like, and he's taken advantage of a state that really needs help delivering things in the way that state agencies have failed, and so he's
but if he's nicked people's private information from the census in an organised way, that's an appalling crime, in my opinion.